I want to give you a little demo about masking your cone flowers. We're going to apply a little bit of masking here. And the cone flower is round. And I want to show light coming in this direction. So I'm just going to mask along the left-hand side of the buds. And I'm going to put the masking on in a curved shape. I want to show that these are round, but this is a flat surface. So if I put my masking on with a curve to it, it will give a better impression of it being rounded. These guys actually grow. If you want to, you could Google coneflower and take a look at what these look like. They're kind of like in a grid pattern, but I don't think we need to worry too super much about that. I went ahead and put some little pencil marks there. You don't have to do that, but I know that once I take the masking off, I can erase those pencil marks off my paper. So I wasn't worried about putting them on there. And I'm going to take my masking fluid. I've put some masking on the back end of my brush, and then I want to tap it to get most of it off. And I'm just going to put my masking onto the centers of my flower, just along the left-hand side and in the shape of a curve. So go ahead and do that. When you've applied your masking and you're done, you can just wipe that end of your brush off with a paper towel. I just want to demo one step in the painting of our cone flowers. And to that end, I would like you to mix up a puddle of permanent rose or alizarin crimson. Alizarin crimson is a nice color for this. It's more of a burgundy than the pink of the permanent rose. You could also, if you wanted to, you could paint these flowers with purple. But I want you to use a pure color out of your palette. I don't want you to mix a color, because you're going to be doing these petals in stages, and I don't want you to have to try to replicate the color you started with yesterday. We're going to paint our petals, painting every other petal. Now this I had masked last night, so I know this masking is dry. Down here, I won't want to do any petals that are touching that masking until that masking has dried. And honestly, it should only take about 10 minutes. It's not very thick. And what we're going to do is we're going to take some clear water and we're going to paint three or four of our petals with just water. I don't know if I can get any shine on there for you. And what I'm going to do is skip a petal. I think I've mentioned to you in prior classes that watercolor pigment will go wherever the paper's damp. And I want to be able to retain the shapes of these petals. So I'm only going to paint every other one on this one flower. I won't paint the little guy that's tucked behind there because they're touching. So this is kind of like painting in islands. And we do that a lot with watercolor. I'm going to give that water just a minute or so to let the paper absorb it a little bit. And then I'm going to load my brush with that pink, and I'm going to tap just a little bit at the top. If you remember our last class, this is called charging. I'm putting a little bit at the tip and a little bit at the base. I don't want to overwork it. What I want to see happen is I want the paper to start drying. And as it's drawing that water in, it's going to draw that color down and give me a nice soft edge. Remember, if your paper is too wet, this color will not move. So you want to give it a couple of seconds to dry, to let the paper start absorbing the water, because that's what's going to pull the pigment. If it doesn't work, if it's not moving, then you want to remember your softened edge technique. Clean your brush, take the extra water out, use the tip of your brush, and encourage that pigment to move a little bit more. The goal here is to go from a dark value to a medium value to a light value with a nice soft edge. And having the damp paper should be enough to accomplish that goal. But you can get in there and soften that edge on your own. I'm going to move on to the next flower now. And my water has started to turn a little pink, so you can see more easily where I'm working. And I'm just going to paint every other petal with water. I'm going to let that water start to dry. And then I'm going to touch a little bit of color up at the top and down at the tip. Once you've done every other petal on each of your flowers, you're going to give your paper about 10 minutes or so to dry. And then you can come back in and do the alternating petals, okay? So for class next week, I want you to have all of your petals just basted in the one time with your color.